Welcome to a special edition of Off Course. We're here to talk about the best time of year, and that's the first major on the PGA Tour, and that's the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. Dan and Matt are here to give you their picks on a number of areas of interest for this year's race to the green jacket. We're going to stage a little draft here as we go over a couple of different categories. We're going to start with picking 5 players who we think could potentially win the Masters this week. And then we're going to branch out into a couple of other categories after that. But you know what? I think we should start this episode maybe by, talking a little bit about our own history of watching the Masters on TV and what it means to each of us individually. So Dan, why don't you share me your favorite Masters story?
All right. Well, I just enjoy watching the tournament. I probably have a million memories, good and bad. I actually kind of enjoy watching the blow-ups, believe it or not, is as sadistic as it can be. But I'm going to keep it positive today. There's a few that stand out. I think I'm going to go maybe a little bit off board here. I like seeing guys get their first one, especially after grind through their career and not just kind of a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Adam Scott, draining that long putt, bringing it home. Australian, been on the tour for a long time, earned that one. I thought just the emotion of seeing a guy like that take home the big one finally was one that really stands out for me.
Yeah.
How about you?
I can actually remember that one fairly well. That's my particular memory, but I remember him and Angel Cabrera going back and forth, and Cabrera and them like giving them each other the thumbs up, even in the playoff. I mean, I thought that was great sportsmanship there. My memory, unfortunately, I've got to pick on Greg Norman here. It's not the epic collapse. It's the one where he lost to Larry Mize when Mize chipped in from off the green and won in the playoff hole. I'm just like, it's like, on the one hand, you're looking at a guy like, I mean, that has to be the absolute pinnacle of Larry Mize's career. If I'm not mistaken, he is an Augusta native.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, like, how do you top chipping in to win basically the highlight of your career? And for Norman, I mean, that was just kind of, one kick to the nads of many at the Masters. I feel bad for the guy, but I mean, that's the way this game breaks, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, we discussed in our last episode about the match play and how Lee Westwood was playing so well, and all of a sudden, nope, match is over, hole in one. So
yeah, the golf gods aren't always kind, but Greg Norman, I don't know what he did to them, but
oh, he pissed them off. Okay, so with that little bit of levity, we're going to get started. So our category list today, we're doing top 5 to win. We're both going to pick 2 dark horse candidates who might win. We're going to pick 2 players who could literally blow up and finish dead last. Sorry, Greg Norman, you're not on that list. We're going to see maybe 1 player who we think might be a wire-to-wire winner, and 1 player who might actually have the lead and then completely disappear. And we're also going to take a stab at, the winning score relative to par. And there will be a bonus category at the end. So you'll have to stay tuned to find out what that category is. So with that said, Dan, I'm giving you the first pick. Let's get this started. We are going to alternate picks back and forth through each category. So Dan picks first in the next category. I get to do the honors in the next category. So you have the honors, Dan. Top 5 to win.
All right. I think I'm going to take a bit of a risk based on recent weeks and his status, but I'm going to go with DJ.
Yeah. No, it's hard to argue against picking the defending champ, especially when he won so decisively, right?
Yes. Yeah. I know he's had the COVID issues and hasn't had a lot of play lately, but he feels obviously at home at that course. So, and never count him out lately. So,
Right.
So we'll stick with DJ to kick this draft off.
Okay.
Who are you going with?
Well, I'd like to point out today that I'm wearing my Black Clover Masters hat. So I've got a little bit of luck going here for me, and Lefty Lives, or hashtag Lefty Lives Lucky. So let's see how this turns out. My first pick, I'm going to go with one of the young guns on tour, Colin Morikawa. He's been playing great since his major breakthrough at last year's PGA. He's coming off a World Golf Championship win over a pretty strong field. And okay, he finished 44th at last year's Masters, but I mean, that was November. The conditions are going to be different. And typically, when you're talking about a springtime tournament, especially in Augusta, you're talking about you need to be solid irons. You need to be able to hit your long irons into greens and play really well. And that's one of the strengths of his game. So I have absolutely no problem picking Colin Morikawa as my first one.
Yeah, just so you know, he was high on my list too. His game sets up for this course, and he's due. So
Yeah.
that's a good pick.
Yeah.
All right, for my next one, I'm going to stick with my all initial team. I'm going to go with JT. I think Justin Thomas is another one whose game sets up well for the Masters. He seems like he's always in the hunt. Very consistent. So I'm going to go with Justin Thomas for my third pick, or second
Right.
pick, third of the draft.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. I think that's a great pick. I did have him on my list just a little further down. So my number 2 pick, number 4 overall, I'm going to dip back into the Aussie pool, which you mentioned earlier, and I'm going to go with Cameron Smith. Um, bad facial hair aside, which I can relate to for those of you on YouTube seeing this. Um, Smith made a name for himself last year when he did something no other player in the history of Masters did, and that was shoot 4 rounds in the 60s.
Yeah.
And that to me says, this kid knows how to handle pressure, and this kid knows how to work his way around a tough golf course. And if it wasn't for a sort of a pedestrian, if you can say a pedestrian round at the Masters in the 60s on Sunday, he was right there with DJ, going shot for shot until late, when DJ just basically found that extra gear and solidified his win. But Smith's got a second place finish at last year's Masters, and I don't think that there's any reason to think that's a fluke. He's got 3 top 20 finishes in this season, and I think he can really challenge DJ's reign as champ. So I'm going with Cameron Smith.
Yeah, very good pick. Controlled golfer, very underrated. Doesn't get the attention he deserves. He was also high on my list. So you're sneaking in some of the ones I thought I might sneak by a little bit later. So for my I thought long and hard about this one when I was strategizing. I know the course doesn't perfectly set up for him. I know it's given him challenges in the past, but I got to go with him just based on his progression in the last year, and that's DeChambeau. I'm gonna roll with him. Hope he can keep it in the fairway. Hope he doesn't get flustered. Hope it doesn't eat him up like it did in the fall. But just he's been too good for too long over the last year or two. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Bryson on this one.
Yeah, I thought long and hard about putting him on my list, and as I wound up not doing it simply based on the fact that you look at some of the shots that he's attempted, like going over things, and we're talking about some really big, really mature trees in Augusta, and I don't know whether or not that would be wise to attempt. I mean, it's going to be really entertaining to watch
It will
this
be.
guy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So, yeah, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go with for my third pick here. Okay, I'm going to go again, maybe a little off the board here, but I'm going to go Victor Hovland from Norway. Um, I, he's only been once and he finished tied 32nd, but he went 72, 71, 71, 71, and that's really consistent. And the thing with Hovland is if he avoids the blow up, which, we saw about a month and a half ago on that one particular hole where he shot a 9 or a 10. I don't remember exactly what that was, but I mean, if this guy gets hot and like he's as skilled with the scoring clubs as anybody out there, if he turns that string of 71s into like a 67, 68 string, then I see no reason why he couldn't be threatening on Sunday. So I'm going Victor Hovland with my number 3 pick.
That's an excellent pick. And just so we're clear, I won't give you my strategy and tip you off, but Victor was in my top 10. So he was going to get picked in this little draft one way or the other. So
okay.
All right. So for my next pick, I'm throwing some risks at it based on health status, playing of recent, etc. But I just can't ignore the talent, and I'm gonna go with Brooks Koepka for my next one. guy that I think Augusta has shown over the years that the guys that are the most competitive, that can grind it out and just never quit, never give in, are the ones that do well at Augusta. And I think Kepka has shown a few times when I had him down and out in tournaments that he just grinds his way through, and bit of a winner. The guy, he's got that drive to win, and uh, I can see him. I can see it going either way for him, but I think the talent's too good to ignore at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I would, when he's healthy and when he's on, I would say that the argument can be made that it's either him or Justin Thomas as the best player of that generation, simply based on the fact that he's got he's got a lot of Tiger's mental attitude when it comes to, pardon the imagery here, but putting your foot down on some guy's neck and just
Yes.
putting away the competition. He knows how to do it. I mean, you don't win back-to-back US Opens by not knowing how to do that. And yeah, no, that's a great pick. And if his knee is solid, I would not be at all surprised to see him sniffing around the leaders podium there.
Yeah.
Okay, so your selection of JT kind of screwed my next pick because I actually had these guys slotted where I wanted to take them. But so now I'm gonna have to change it up a little bit. I'm gonna go Patrick Cantlay here. So
That was my next pick.
well, there we go. I finally got one away from you. I come back to Patrick simply because of the fact that you watch him and he oozes talent. I can't put it any better than that. And nothing really seems to get into his head and rattle him. He makes a mistake. He's like, all right, fine, whatever. Put it behind me and I'll make my next shot better. But he has a history at Augusta, and I think that's what makes me feel good about this. He was the low amateur in 2012, I believe it was. He had a tie for ninth back in 2019. So he's already got a year under his belt, or a win under his belt this year. He's got a couple other top 3 finishes, and I would consider him one of the 10 hottest golfers on the planet going right now. I got no problem riding with him as one of my picks here. So that's my 4th pick at Patrick Cantlay.
Excellent. Yeah, I think your list. All 4 of your guys were high on mine. I gotta say, you're picking the kind of the all underrated team, guys that are just good there every week, don't get the attention, but all 4 of those could be right in the thick of it. So for my final pick in this group, I'm going to go with another guy whose power and temperament could get him in trouble, but again, the skill is just too much to ignore, and that's Rombo. I'm going to go with John Rahm. Another guy that is on the cusp, it seems, every other week, sometimes coming through. Just again, much like Koepka and DeChambeau, just if they can keep it controlled, the talent's just too good to ignore at this stage of the draft. So John Rahm.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, I thought about it, and then I heard that his wife's due the weekend of the Masters with their first child. So if she can hold on just a little bit longer, that could turn out to be a really good pick for you. I'm going to go with somebody who, frankly, I don't pay any attention to half the time, simply because of the fact that he's a young guy. He's sort of an unknown, and I kind of I don't want to say it and have it sound bad, but I honestly think it's where he's from. Abraham Answer.
Yeah.
So he's talented. He was a Masters rookie last year, and yeah, I mean, he was right in it for 3 rounds. He was 68, 67, 69 through 3 rounds. And, a final round 76 basically took him out of contention. He was right there with DJ shot for 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at his stats, and this is kind of what makes me feel good about picking him. And I'm going to have to read this directly. So his 2 key statistics, his 2021 stats in 2 key Augusta categories. So 72.56 driving accuracy, which puts him 2nd on tour right now, and 71.21% greens and regulation, which makes him 14th on tour. So you drive it in the fairway and you make it to the green when you're supposed to at Augusta, that means you're going to have a lot of scoring opportunity. And he proved in his previous round or his previous time at the tournament there, at least through 3 rounds, he's capable of putting up a score. So if he puts 4 rounds together, then yeah, we could be seeing our first Mexican Masters champion. And I'm sure Donald Trump loves hearing that.
Yeah, Answer just he doesn't miss. He doesn't miss very often, and with him, it'll be he don't need to be a bomber at this course. That plays into his favor. It'll just be like you just mentioned. Can he string 4 together? Because that's often been the thing that holds him and most golfers back, really. So, but he doesn't miss. So
yeah. Wouldn't it be interesting to see a final pairing of him and DeChambeau?
That'd be a contrast, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't know who to cheer for in that instance, because either one of those two winning would certainly be an interesting exercise, but
Yes.
to say the very least.
Yeah.
So
and I should know. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I should note that he's also currently top of the leaderboard. Answer is based on it goes alphabetical till the tournament starts. So that's a positive sign for you.
If they only awarded the jacket for that. So that finishes up the draft portion of this category. As sort of a fun exercise, I like going over the rest of the names I had on the list. So as it happens, I got 3 of the top 4 that I wanted. Next one up on the list was going to be Hideki Matsuyama.
Mm-hmm.
So and then Tyrrell Hatton right behind him.
Interesting.
Yeah,
for what it's worth, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there again. But for what it's worth, I had Matsuyama just outside my top 10. Next just to give you the next 3 on my list that were not picked, I had Xander Schauffele next.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had I think Webb Simpson's actually, this course plays in his favor, so I had him higher on my list. And then Justin Rose has been pretty consistent over the last few years too, and it's another course that plays somewhat into his hands with his experience. So those were the next 3 that I didn't get on my list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only other one that I didn't mention off of mine was Scotty Scheffler.
Well, him too, yeah.
After his run at the World Golf Championships in Austin there, if you take out the 2 disastrous, holes where he went water, he had a really good run in Texas there. And I thought that, maybe that's the kind of thing that's going to carry over.
Yeah, he's a budding star. It's only a matter of time for him to get a green jacket. I don't know if it's yet at 24 years old, but I listed my top 20 and he was right there, just beyond the top 10. So he's coming. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that concludes that portion. Now we move on to the dark horse candidates, where lucky lefty here gets the first pick. And I honestly debated putting this golfer on my list of candidates to win. It's Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
He's won here before, so that's what makes me think that he could be a factor. I was hoping that I would see a little bit more improvement in his game leading up to this than what I have seen. It's that final push. It's what we were talking about with Brooks, right? He knows how to get that horse across the finish line, as it were. And Jordan used to, and then for some reason he wanted to become Bryson DeChambeau's little brother and match him in yardage, which I thought was crazy. But yeah, I mean, he's playing better. He's won in Augusta before. You throw out his tie for 46th last year simply because of the fact that he wasn't playing well anywhere, never mind at the Masters. And he's had a 5-year run of not finishing any worse than 11th. And that to me suggests, we're talking that, muscle memory doesn't fade for golfers. It becomes a little harder to recall at times, but it never really fades. So I think if he gets hot, especially in the first round, especially in the front 9 of his first round, that could literally carry him through to another green jacket. So I'm taking Spieth as my first dark horse.
Well, you can't go wrong there. I mean, the experience in the especially at Augusta, you could see his game was all out of sorts the last couple of years. You could see it in his head, and he had zero confidence. But over the last few months, you're starting to see it creep back, which is good timing for this tournament. So obviously not a bad pick when you go with a guy that's won it before and is still young. So
Yeah.
for my first dark horse, I'm going to go maybe a little off the page here, but I'm going to go with a guy that I think is also quite underrated. Might have fit on your first list, and that's Daniel Berger. Fine, he's had a couple wins. He's been close in a couple other tournaments. Similar to Answer, where sometimes it's the stringing the 4 rounds together. But his game also, he plays a good control game, great irons, and good approaches. So he set, in my mind, he sets up well for Augusta, and just have a hunch that he might be a guy that's in the mix at some point this weekend or next weekend. So I'm going to go with Daniel Berger.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was one of those guys that I looked at for my picks to win list. I wound up picking Schauffele over, or Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler over him, simply because of the fact that I found that those guys were playing better right now. But you're exactly right. Berger is the kind of guy that he doesn't do anything spectacularly well, but you look up and it's like, how did he get to 4 under par so damn fast?
Yeah,
You know, he's very methodical. It's almost like he has walked the entire course beforehand, knows where all the problem areas are, and he's got a list of, okay, I hit it here, 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 I'm going to be fine. I can score from there. I
yeah,
mean, that to me seems, how he approaches his his game, and it works fantastically well for him.
yes.
So I think that's a pretty solid dark horse pick. Okay, so I have to admit, my second dark horse, I've got a strange emotional attachment to. I can't explain it, but it's Tony Finau. And like, I'm looking at, like, I have no reason to have an emotional attachment with this guy other than the fact that he has got so much skill and so much raw talent that, yeah, you ask yourself, why hasn't he won more? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, I don't know. I can't, it's got to be in here. Like, it's literally got to be between the ears. And honestly, it pisses me off when I see him play so well and then piss it away. And I'm just like, dude, why can't you win? I want to see you win. Um, like, he's got a track record of playing well at Augusta. I think tied 10th a couple years ago, tied 5th the year after that. If you overlook the fact that he dislocated his ankle jumping for joy on a par 3 at the par 3 contest a couple years ago, he's played well here. So, it would be nice to see him actually put it all together at the same time and win something.
Yeah, and you know what? If he wins this tournament, I'll be happy for you because it's such a class act. Tony Finau has been a likable player on the tour for a long time, and he reminds me a little bit of what we had in Jason Day a couple years ago, where it seemed
Yeah.
like every week you turned on the TV, they're in the top 10 every week.
Yeah.
Trouble closing the deal, obviously
Yeah.
at times, some bad luck, some bad rounds, but anytime you find yourself sniffing around the top 10 week after week, it should just be a matter of time. It's almost like he's earned it. So
Yeah.
I'll cheer for you if Finau pulls the green jacket this tournament. So for mine, I had a bunch of picks here that I was mulling over, but I think I've narrowed it down to my guy, and continuing the theme of Finau and class acts and guys that you root for just because of their sportsmanship, decency, etc. Also, a game that sets up somewhat for Augusta, and a guy that's been around it a bit all year is Harris English. I think he's a guy that there's a number of guys on tour right now that are close. But English has broken through once or twice for some wins of late, and he's also been snooping around the top of the tournament. So I think he's got a bit of a rounded game, and it's just if he can pull it together and not be intimidated by the field. So that's my other dark horse.
Yeah. I mean, I put him in the same category as Webb Simpson, right? I mean, Webb obviously has bigger wins on his record, but yeah, you're right. Harris seems to find a way to string together, and this is usually, every round, not just, once or twice in a tournament, but he'll string together a couple of really good holes that, thrusts him forward. And, it's again sort of like Finau, where he has trouble finding a way to close things out. But, you have to figure eventually, something's going to click for guys like that. And again, it's exactly what you said about Finau. He's a classy guy. He handles himself remarkably well on the course. And it would not upset me at all to see a guy like that win, especially, given his name.
Well, that's a little. Yeah, I thought you might take him for that reason.
No, unfortunately not. I wish I had his game, but that's a whole other story. So, okay, so there are our dark horse candidates. Now we're going to move on to two players who we think could blow up and finish dead last in the tournament. I mean, this is a funky category, but it happens every year where there's a guy. And I would like to preface this by saying I don't plan on picking any of the amateurs. I mean, that's just like low hanging fruit right there.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But Dana, you have the honors for first pick in this category, so have at her.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We didn't discuss this ahead of time, but I felt it was kind of a cheap roll to go with an amateur. So I'm going to leave them alone. Let them have their tournament. Let them have their fun, come what may. Going to take maybe semi-obvious pick, but and this is all due respect to you and the lefty contingent. But I'm gonna roll with Phil here. I know he's capable of winning this darn thing, but he's also capable of just completely, blowing up and just leaving it all out there. So, yeah, I think I'm deep down hoping for some entertainment value with this pick. That there might just be something ridiculous, and he'll roll with it with his sense of humor. But yeah, I saw some ridiculousness out of Phil yesterday, and I think he's gearing up for a potential blow up. So I'm going to go with Phil.
Yeah, when a guy with that much skill and imagination and creativity puts up a 10 on the board and plays the hole the way you and I might play the hole.
Yeah.
That is not a surprising pick. I did consider him for this category. But actually I'm going with a guy who you thought might be on your list to win, and that's Justin Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate picking it because Rose is such a nice guy, but I don't know. It just feels like he's been trending down for so long, and he's just, I don't know. It just doesn't feel good picking him for anything other than something like this. I hate picking him, but you got to pick somebody, and I kind of liken his slide a little bit to what Rory went through back when he went from Titleist to Nike as far as his clubs. His game took a nosedive, and that's largely due to the fact that he was figuring out his new equipment. And Rose kind of did the same thing a couple years ago, and he hasn't really been the same since. So I can see him just completely losing it, unfortunately. Yes. Sorry, Rosie.
Nope. There's a few picks in this category that would have been fair, and I think we hit on two of them. I think I should have mentioned I left the amateurs alone. I also wanted to leave the legacy guys alone, the Larry Mises, the Woosnams, the guys that are there as ceremonial purposes. I'm talking actual competitors, and you and I both lean towards guys that are, I mean, not to put Rose in the same age category yet as Phil, but they've been around a while, and the potential is there.
Yeah, exactly. And your number two pick in this category?
Oh, geez. This one was tough because I had a few picks here, and I'll share them with you after you've made your pick. So purely based on the fact that a couple of them I didn't want to pick just because they're good guys. I don't want to see it happen. I'm going to stay away from them, and I'm going to go with the sentimental one that we never mind seeing blow up, and that's Sergio.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, yeah, it's completely plausible.
That's a big stage. He doesn't obviously control his emotions very well. Tends not to take a whole lot of accountability. Blames the course, the crowd, fellow competitors. All the elements you need for a good blow up. So I'm gonna hope that Sergio won't let us down, and I guess will let us down. When I'm hoping, you never want to see a guy blow up. So I figure if I'm going to pick one, I might as well pick a guy that no one ever minds seeing blow up. So
yeah, you're getting good entertainment value when he does. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think you're right on the money on that one.
yeah.
My last one, I'm going back to one of the younger guys actually, and I found myself kind of surprised when I put this guy's name on the list, but it's Matthew Wolf.
Ah,
I mean, he's got skill, but he's like, I think he's just like one twitchy swing away from completely going off the rails sometimes. And, I can see him having at least one round in the 80s at this tournament, especially, you go through Amen Corner and, you could hit what you think is going to be a great shot. And all of a sudden, this little gust of wind comes up and your ball is going, yeah, see ya. And you get the wrong bounce or, whatever it is. And like those are the things that can really derail any round. And this guy, he's absolutely hit or miss right now in his career. I mean, when he's on, he's scary good. When he's
yeah,
off, he's just scary. I mean, there's really no other way to describe that. So,
yeah. It's funny. This time last year, I might have contemplated him for the first category, that who might win this. I
uh-huh.
had him trending very similarly to Scotty Scheffler, where they were starting to be in every tournament. The skill was obvious. That thing with Matt Wolf that you already mentioned, that's always in your head, is that quirky, ugly swing, and how quickly that can go off the rails, especially in a course where you need control.
Yeah.
And his last few months have not been terribly promising. So I can see that pick. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we move on to our next category here, and that's wire to wire. We're going to try and pick one player who might lead the tournament from start to finish, and then we'll segue into the next one, which is one player who might lead and then completely disappear. So I think I had the first pick on this one. I'm going to go back to one of the guys I picked in my picks to win, and that's Morikawa. I mean, again, if he is playing his irons solidly from the first hole on, and and I don't know the tee times, so I didn't look that up. But if he gets a round one tee time when he can really score, then it's off to the races for this kid. I mean, I don't know how you develop a killer instinct that quickly in your career, but he seems to have it. And if he gets the luck of the draw as far as when he's playing that first round, it could be lights out before everybody else hits the field.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's certainly a valid pick. I mean, we've seen it for a while now from Morikawa. He's a gamer. He's in it. If he gets locked in mentally, like we know he can, certainly viable. It's just like you said, it's getting that first round in the books.
Yeah.
So that's a great pick. I'm certainly not going to go completely off the boards on this one. I think if you're talking wire to wire guys, we're talking the top 3 or 4 picks in the pool. Those are the only guys that really have the capability of doing it. Normally, I would have gone with DJ, but based on how little he's played of late, I'm
Yeah.
not sure he's going to be able to go back to back wire to wire. So I'm going to run with JT on this one. I think he's. I'm looking for consistency here and consistency of going under par. So he's a guy that's dialed in. He's done it a million times before. He's been in the hunt a lot lately. I think if anyone can do it, it's probably Thomas. So he'll be my wire to wire pick.
That is, yeah. I mean that is as solid a pick. And like I said, if he was on my team, I probably would have gone the same way on that pick. But you beat me to him, so yeah. So, but what about the other one? What about maybe somebody who has the lead and then completely falls apart?
So on this one, and I apologize in advance because I have 2 picks here, and I'm gonna throw a twist at you for the pool because the guy I'm gonna pick. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I was worried I might take your guy, but I'm gonna switch because I don't want to. So the guy I think might lead this till halfway and then fall off the map is another guy I like a lot. Class act is Paul Casey. Good iron player, controlled vet, been in the hunt a lot lately.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think he has 4 rounds in him anymore, and I think the pressure might crack him at Augusta coming down the stretch. So I'm gonna go with I changed my mind a couple times in the course of that intro, but I'm gonna stick with Paul Casey.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. He was on my short list. I had 3 guys picked out for this category. He was on that list, simply because of the fact he kind of falls into that category of one of the best never to win a major. And given how well he's played at Augusta, it wouldn't surprise me to see him leading, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see that completely slip through his fingers either. You hate to say that about anybody,
Yeah,
but you nailed everything on the head there by saying that I don't think he has enough gas in the tank left to see it through,
yeah,
especially on a Sunday when things get really intense.
yeah.
Um, and as I alluded to before, my pick for this is Lee Westwood, and I hate picking him in this category, but he plays well at Augusta. He's always played well at Augusta, and he has always let it go. And I do not understand how that happens. But he's now what gives me a little bit of cause to, or pause, I should say, to make this pick is how well he's been playing this year outside of talk of the Masters. But I can see him being this, his generation's Greg Norman, where he's got all the talent in the world. He's made millions playing around the world, and yet he can never put it together at one particular tournament. And this is that.
Yeah, and just so you know, he was my other guy, and I almost threw out the offer that when I was going to pick him, I had an inkling that he was your guy, and I was going to
Mhm.
say he's my pick unless that's your pick, in which case I'll pick another guy. But then I just thought, you know what, I'm fairly certain you're going with Westwood, so I'll stick with Casey. They're similar guys, similar games, similar career status. I think both are very solid picks in this category, but I'm glad you got your guy. So
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope. Like that's one
yeah,
category I am absolutely okay being wrong in.
yeah.
Yeah. So our next one is winning score relative to par, and this is always a tricky cat. Like I know bettors in Las Vegas and other sports books love this kind of thing, but you know I look at what DJ did back in the fall, and I'm like, okay, that was impressive. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I'm also thinking springtime golf when it tends to be a little gustier, things tend to be a little firmer. I don't know that we're going to see a number like that.
Yeah.
So, what like I'm going with maybe 11 under par is the absolute most that we're going to see. I mean, whoever wins could wind up winning by 3 or 4 shots, but I don't think anybody's going to absolutely run away from the field
Yeah.
by posting some ridiculous number and forcing everybody to catch up to them. I just don't see that happening this time around.
Interesting thoughts. Very, very interesting. I mean, I agree with your whole premise there and your rationale for sure. I I'm going to lead a little bit the other way though, and just say that we've seen some pretty hot play of late. Guys gear up for the Masters, and of course the field is just unbelievable. So
Hmm.
I'm going to give the field a little more credit here, and I'm going to go with -15
Okay.
as the winning score. Flirting with the upper ends of where I think it'll get based on all the reasons you said, but I just think that this course isn't going to be able to contain all the names we just rhymed off, and I was even tempted to go even a little lower than that, but for all the reasons you said, I'm gonna rein it in at -15.
Yeah, it's like we've seen it before. I mean, we've seen guys absolutely and without question dominate Augusta, and for no other reason than they're the hottest player in the field and they're making everything at the right time.
Yeah,
I'm just not like, I'm thinking this is going to be one of those years where the score maybe tends to trend backward a little bit, simply based on the fact that they're returning to Augusta again after such a short break. I mean, this is very unusual, and for maybe a lot of the first timers, they're going to have a hard time adjusting. Or sorry, guys who are playing for the second time, but having played it for the first time back in November.
yeah.
I mean, I never having been there myself, I have to assume that the course is going to play a little differently than it did in the fall. But I mean, you're also talking about course conditions going back to the norm,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens. I mean, this will be an interesting one to see what is the final number.
Yeah. It. it's going to be interesting to watch because there's a lot of factors that come into play. I think ultimately for me, the bottom line is always just the talent of the field. So
Yeah.
um, we'll see, but it'll be interesting if it's tighter, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it run away.
Yeah, exactly. That's what doing picks like this is all about, proving just how wrong we actually are.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now we arrive at, okay, this was something that I was having fun with all week leading up to this. So the bonus category that I alluded to earlier, folks, is the winning club manufacturer. So I know in F1 racing and NASCAR, they make a big deal about the engine in the car, and they love talking about that kind of stuff. And I do know that in golf, there is a certain amount of prestige, especially when your staff golfer wins a tournament, especially a major. So I'm going based on what I had for my picks to win, and if I'm riding with Morikawa as my guy, then obviously I'm going with TaylorMade to win, be the winning manufacturer. And yeah, it's funny because I don't consider myself a TaylorMade guy, but apparently the pros love that stuff, and especially green jacket winners, because if Morikawa wins, and this was something I found interesting, that would give the TaylorMade 3 straight plus 4 of the last 5.
That's and I'm not as big a gear guy as you, so you're going to be more up to speed on this for sure. TaylorMade was going to be where I was leaning to because of the like you said, the track record and some of the big guys using it. So that said, I'm going to use similar logic. I'm looking at my big guns, and DJ obviously uses TaylorMade, so I can't go there. But I'm leaning towards JT. I'm going to go with Titleist.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that his Titleists come through. It's a little bit riskier as there's fewer players out there with them, but using that same logic, we'll throw that one up there and we'll see what sticks.
Well, when you're riding with a guy like JT, I don't think you can go too wrong in saying that. So like I said, like we said about everything here, it'll be interesting to see how this all pans out. Okay, folks, so that was our last category. Dan, how are you feeling about your picks overall?
I mean, I'm quite happy with the names on paper. My roster looks extremely solid, but we all know it's played on the grass. So how are you feeling about yours?
My picks to win, I'm actually feeling pretty good. I know I trended younger, and I picked maybe a few guys who should have been like, I'm sure somebody out there is going to be saying Abraham Answer to win. That's more of a dark horse pick than it is a solid pick. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, after reading up on both what they've done in previous Masters and how they've been playing lately, I don't think any of my selections for any category are out of line. So yeah, no, I think I'm in good shape there. So I'd like to throw out a little friendly wager that if one of us wins, the loser buys them a beer.
Hey, I'm always up for that. Beer is my favorite kind of wager. Doesn't
Yeah,
break the bank and gives us an excuse to go for a beer. So
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Beer of your choice for the winner of this one. So
sounds good. Okay, folks, that's a wrap on this special edition of Off Course. Make sure you tune into our regularly scheduled podcast next week. Dan and I will be back with our drafting caps on again as we explore our version of March Madness. So until then, everybody just keep hitting it straight, just not at us.